Developed his
Dad?
That's
That's what I'm at, I know.
I don't
Well,
know what
Doug
I'm
and I are-
thinking, like, the kids like, so having this one, does that cover, which one's having a kid point to one? Now, I'm not gonna put sticky tabs on there 5 times.
We noticed that,
But who's
you know,
gonna see
something
that?
quick, done, so they're not.
I think it's lazy because.
And then all of the other are lost. So our number two will also.
Does not go from our.
There's ways take
Up there, get them
one, and I
posted.
think while Doug's leading,
I just-
identified
But use
what,
it.
Craig, what is it we're looking for? I'll be the
High
doctor,
cognitive.
and then when I'm
Solutions.
collecting data.
Reasoning strategies. On the independent,
Student
sometimes,
moves
you know,
from
because I tell high, low, and middle learners that it's easy for them versus I do all the time. Again,
We decided
to me,
that that room
if they don't know
is
it's twins, so
not.
they have to at least about, even though they still have personal changes back out to them. Working on, and then, like, enough to habits of mind,
Yeah.
mind, and habits that are. And then put
But I have one class in that class, yeah, this won't work, this
hoping
will
that
go
they
really
tell
well.
me.
And I don't
See
even
if
know
that-
it. I have period math,
Flow
that's
on the
great.
class and stuff. I guess you gotta put it where you want it to go. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
With everyone, there's not.
Right, discussion as far as, just like we did when we, or like what we're trying to do, reflecting on those, being proactive.
Well, I did.
This is where, like I was saying, green was on the bottom.
We were gone the first day I entered the period, you know.
Put those, you know, here's the problem with that. 10
You
minutes,
know,
increase to
put it
go.
down and.
And at the end, okay, you know, these math actions, you know, just things like that on its own, because it's, approach the area.
And then from year to year, other times, working up to Jason, it's still, they think a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Right for the algebra. I don't need resources because the
Structure, because it's almost, you know, look at his interaction, that's what it is now for how to teach.
But I can have my set in the back of them talking, they get to look.
And so I just want to hear ways you guys have
Well,
done.
he's got the data, I got the one
Use
long.
this,
Well, I know, because I know all those, I know all those, you sent me those, but you can't even read them, I'm always, they know you can't read
It's in
them.
your group?
No, these are actually readable.
It means that, you know, go through the process of this, which is important, so easy to get up the end. In terms of how you need to more I mean, I think it is important. I mean, I think it's actually homework projects that are just like, I could see myself doing that, you know, just like the affirming meaning that, saying good job. Especially, you know, I could see myself saying, what we just did was just a source that I have that I can pull up. You know, I decided right into that. I feel like, you know, we have live and standards and I was wondering like, if I had, it would not
So with
be.
me, the kid just said, like, you say, you can build.
I'm not sure in greatest common factors right now.
Neighbor imply their answer is correct.
Exactly what this is.
Yeah.
Generalizations, okay, so our target.
Yep.
All the different avenues that are problem will be,
Adding with the.
it's really rich,
Me,
you
the
know.
generalizations over
The
there.
discussion's really about
Why is
that
this
in
your
terms
success?
of doing,
And the making sense proactive.
that does make sense, you know, building that.
So I'm trying to
I'm
tell
not
you,
you
you know, what that's
Patients can only come from. So then
justifying,
it's the
so
meaning
that's
of
what we're already
curriculum.
doing.
Yeah, very well, so we have to get other resources.
Yeah. The thing that you feel like helped me was, is I started doing a
Invite you
private
all,
time.
I need about 30 seconds before I turn you loose to lunch.
Yes.
So just holding them
I
against
just
the.
think about it.
Something.
But I was such an affirm, I could see myself doing low level.
Right.
I think it'd be able to tease out which one to think about.
Let them bring us minutes. If you heard something in that you want to make sure you jot down, take 30 seconds here to jot it down. Could be around your action plan. If there's something you want.
Probably four. To both pairs and
This is before we break. And if you haven't had a chance, either specifics on the orange paper, seeing the electronic forwarded, please take register. A couple of minutes on to lunch. We'll take a couple minutes at lunch to register. Okay?
What is that?
It does two things. One, you on a registration list in this group and you're part of this. Second is it gives you access to Math Collaborative. Look down here, OMC, the online math collaborative board, where we post things for each other now in January and so forth.
Emails from you guys?
No, good. So there is two, but the emails that you would get would be a particular group.
We're not part of our group, so, but there's. So I don't know.
What was the website you went to?
Very attractive, really nice.
Yeah.
Check the class roster and make sure it's spot,
Yeah.
and if for some reason.
I'm in the right spot.
Okay. Last night, reading the article to either a quick summary or where you have come from in terms of math. I haven't had a chance to do that. Please email it to me. My email is typed up, send it off. It's not today and it's tomorrow. Pretty quickly before you forget. If you printed it and you have it with you, I would love it at lunchtime and you can leave it with.
For the stuff that we were assigned a big portion of time to complete those tasks, references, and I don't have, except that, those kinds of things completed during training day.
So calling that out, I'm gonna leave a little extra time care of that. It should be a 5-minute process, so that should be pretty to lunch. But if you want to take a little bit extra when you get a chance, that would be great. Appreciate that. I mean, I'd back up, a few minutes early to think about that. If that.
I just feel like I have, and hours every single day, kids and compounding environments is very strict.
Appreciate you calling out, and I will try to be more respectful. Other questions? Okay. Well, we're after 40. At 12:15, half an hour for lunch, and if you register if you need to. If you please let me. Some of them I have.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, all right.
Would be,
All right.
but the ones that, like the protocols for structure, find those, the teacher know those, but where the research, make some notes right in the front of the book.
Yeah.
But- So I want us to take a look at page. Start. So there's one teacher, robust and generalized student thinking. A particular teacher move is not, but often consists silence, is referred. And the next couple of chunks up can take turns. Someone be willing to read that first 50. That starts to.
Too closely read rules that have robust and student thinking are off. Wait time and private reading time, both are about. Teacher uses wait time period after posing to one or more students in private reasoning time, really, and privately reasoning before talking. With stall suggests helpful because it names purpose and activity of this period. Similarly, reasoning to expectation about.
Fantastic. And the second paragraph? Great. Thanks, Ian.
Found that a teacher waits seconds when that teacher can respond correctly. 1 second when the student will get an ins. Found that teacher perceived as average of 0.9.
Yeah. Screw this up.
Thinking about that, that's pretty impactful research. I want you to think for just time and what you do in your, but does that?
You think so? Ian?
Yes.
Gave me more time.
You were doing it in the split second.
I'm very uncomfortable. Yeah.
97,
Yeah.
that was
So thankful this, I mean, so it might not, the Steve just said, and then literally waited momentarily and then said, what is the message that, yeah, I mean, and
Not
then,
gonna happen, so
Right.
I'm not gonna,
Think about it.
I know that.
You're not accountable to it.
Other data associated with when you're not necessarily, releasing students to task, that if you move, which we all wanna do, they can't get started with just in discussion, but it's not just physical, like your body language, you're not necessarily
Yeah,
sound.
Renee was student teaching in my class. What was her name? Helen or something? He actually said, once you get, anyway, when you actually spend an amount of time to get started first, instead of hard students right away, to help them, did you get the instruction on time?
I've heard people use that strategy of walking away from the student to your classroom or walking, so that you're giving them that.
Standing still, Renee, was that something, so even if you're walking, it isn't stillness.
Pick up with the third paragraph.
Rowe, Kasdan, that typically give the answer, does not answer correctly, or open synthesis having a variety of research, extending the wait time in class and teachers' behavior. For example, teachers who extend the seconds provide students from teachers.
You wanna read that to the book?
Improves, it reflects thinking. Students become visible expectations for these students, cognitively complex, the teacher active level, and then the student responses.
Moment here. What are some you use for trying on or allow you to, or so private reasoning time with students?
Ask that question again.
Sure. Privately for a moment. What are some, or that you might to help you with wait time? Ask you to turn in one strategy that you want or that you already use. Partners, and Renee, do you want to come this way? You could pick. Okay, so, and then partners back there. So share with your partner.
That sounds scary.
Reasoning
You're going
question,
to nice.
so it's
I think I
on
saw
the flip
the
chart
other
so
side
that
saying
give the verbal, the question, so they gotta think about it. A lot of times people interrupt because they're not sure, so you make it visible and then I'm looking at the question I wanted, you're able to be quiet, you're just looking around and share, and you don't worry that
Uncomfortableness of,
And then I know sometimes I gotta get.
having to yell.
I like it. There you go. Just keep that
Silence.
It relates.
Okay.
Welcome, Tom.
Huge turn on the first one, all of a sudden, it's everybody.
Wait, 10 seconds.
Different pairs, so I'm thinking about the actual strategy, important. Let's get a few, so why is wait time? Gives a chance to think. Yeah. Thinking there.
status.
You can level
Because-
start.
And you quickly do your interest in raising, you get the same amount to staff.
Help reduce that.
Gives the brain time to work.
Kids just probably.
And let's ask. It might would be, could have quit another day, whatever I happen to be thinking. Absolutely. Strategies. How do you getting sufficient wait time? It can be uncomfortable sometimes, right?
And we're talking about how sometimes sit kind of at the desk or table, something back.
You guys were talking about that. I heard Dan doesn't know why he's doing that.
Yeah.
Because if we just go sit in the back of the chair, they might wonder, well, know that you're honoring that wait time. What are other strategies?
Something that my wait time is when I'm at the task. So I find an interrupting their wait times too, is I try to have their flip chart or whatever think about. And so then that's body language, it should. I don't worry if someone maybe wanted it restated like you at least. So she had, and you weren't quite sure on it, she wouldn't have had to stop or restate it, it would have been there. So that one, but I mean, you have to be cool, but.
Other strategies.
It's just wait, time yourself, you can do some count.
So that makes opportunity to be in a classroom quite. I noticed that when they ask a question, and I thought, kind of interesting, but I, just that's how he stands, and I didn't know. Pretty soon, I saw him walked up, was moving around. He had his hands turned like this, with his fingers. He didn't do it out in front of the kids. It was just kind of time, and that was his way. That he was really not that you have to go. You thought that was kind of interesting. So then I was talking about the fact that's how he had to jump in. What's that?
Also, one teacher at our school, strategies you're coming up with. So now they have something to do, some perhaps the rest of their counting off.
I'd ask them for a little feedback. That we're talking a lot about wait time, reasoning time. That we're asking. You know how long? Oh, I give you reasoning time.
First, I guess, I throw, and then I go, kind of help set me for the rest of it.
So if the kids give you feedback, frame that determinations. Go in the future.
We give kids an amount of time for the task. I always, so if you're done, minutes, 1 or 2, he has to show me. If I see this and I question, it's a X minutes that I'm waiting, they have some time, but trying to honor a certain amount of things, everybody.
So you might make a lead and then check in with them.
Even shorten to make sure.
Yeah. So when your students are in time, are you asking, in the thinking just in their head?
Their body fingers when they're done.
Some by their body language. So I think about the strategy, something down when they're, whether it's answering a quick question, that is, for me, sometimes, because I want to think in my mind, I need to check in with them, ready to ask another question. And I've had people ask, well, have access or doesn't have a way to go, asking them to write down, to ask their partner, or what ask the situation would be. So it could be that kind of getting the same time, something that you can honor that, or we give them enough, maybe don't leave them there. It's on wait time or.
This is, you guys are saying here has been really affirming, and I talked with Laura about that. She was trying to get you with your private think talent like that, and then she kind of said, oh, what are you going to say to these in terms of getting them quiet? Every classroom management based. I'd only talk to certain kids, class, which question was, what do you hour of private think time? It says to the purpose between a classroom management versus that leads to being able to do, and what awesome. I just think that in terms of very thought important, why it's powerful, reinforce it and stuff like that. I just want to affirm done just now as compared to awesome.
No,
it was my issue. I want to make sure that they understand. You guys obviously do.
For us to think about why unplug, did I mess up your computer if I do that? And move right back in. Restart something on you. I wanted to ball space. This next little piece, student work.
Yeah, you want to ask it would be important to be involved in the research, because one of the class periods that I have a paraeducator in there, they put their heart and soul into immediately they're doing the work for the student, start thinking about this, instantly jumping in there, have this training to know that those students they have the most biggest so I mean that.
Boris?
I was looking at diverting that direction.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Excellent point.
To be exposed to the data.
And if the research on, you could even pull this page or have them think about just how do you extend that way and all why this is important. Most of us got into teaching or help students. That sometimes when we are swooping in and saving, I'm swooping in and saving and ourselves, because it can be really hard when someone might be struggling, thinking about how do we go, not go for that productive struggle, help them or guide them with doing the work.
Well, that would, it's important to set boundaries. I would think that with private time, they wouldn't know what the kid's thinking, or how the adult is, and even if not sure what to think, question, assessing the question that you're thinking about their own thinking. Later on, a para or supports guide them, but during that initial, I would want individual.
Right, and I think we have the court staffs to set what
Yeah.
they've decided is best practice and necessarily that we're working on.
So it could be in their next, because and maybe whoever's running that PLC is that you would want to have come out conversation in the classroom.
Yeah, and their body language, just don't give them their pencil,
I think that's really important for making sure we think a little bit about mathematics and to set us up for that. This side of the room is going to kind of have to, I want you to pretend a classroom right now and a student 1 divided by 2/3. And we walked around 4 different work. What is which of these and why? And on a piece of paper, please stop a few notes. Which of those are correct? I'm going to focus you in just a couple moments. I'm going to have you share, and I'm going to partner A in your pair and B in your pair. I'm going to get you to think about that. So now that you have your partner A, your partner B, and to help you think about where you're focused, B, A, B, A. No, good. Private reasoning time. Students are going to talk about. You turn and talk with your A to begin the talk about A and B are correct. When they're done talking about student B to D and whether they think D and Y, one talk together about students. Have you started? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, these pieces. So I get my partner A's to stand. Partner A's. Look around the room. This is the group of student A and student B. Dan, something that you were thinking A and student B.
Student
One
A-
or the other.
Well, student A, group of 2/3, first part right, and then a half of 2/3 is they're combining total. Kind of how many?
Okay. So the thirds, and then they saw that this was thirds. Onto that, or how might you?
They just missing piece, interpreted.
So which is that last piece?
1/3 of our.
They might be thinking about, that is 1/3 relative to the questions.
Get a lot
Question,
more students going, it takes a little bit more detail,
Oh, yeah.
that would be, so I would see,
okay.
before they how it's all working.
So if you just did this, I mean, you looked over to the department and they were talking about, might you ask them to make to have sense of either one scenario, box, but it's a rec scenario, what's happening with student A.
Something out of them having words right now,
Okay?
and then ask them thirds.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's one group of 2/3, and that last piece, one group of
We're
2.
hearing that the press that we're this comparable third.
Not try to take that away to do in their head.
Mhm.
That's right. What else?
Box, right?
Okay.
That's right, not signed,
So I might do that,
and then what's that leftover part of 2/3?
and how 2/3 do I have now? Weigh my dashed one.
I always start by having their whole amount. So they do start by labeling. So then going from there, we would come for them kind of make that connection.
The idea around whole, so we've got, well, we're talking a whole
2/3
right here.
There's, you have enough earth, is that half?
Yep. You think about, this is one,
You could cut out paper and actually,
yeah, absolutely, a piece of paper, then divide it into thirds. This is 2/3 and then for that.
and I would use, how many times does the blue go in it, and then it goes in one, it's not gonna fit in another time. Cut this blue one so that, or something, right, and they could see that, you know.
Yep. What about putting up an affect and why?
For examples, the examples you look out there, they're taken, compare, and improve.
What if you had them and answer and look at the drawing, the drawing do that. So what's taking,
So this
which is what that
student,
is.
students have written it, you could have them work through it, so if know the algorithm, or, I mean, again, they could do that, and then specific ideas about how you is out, or some questions that you're not taking away the thinking, then to kind of focus their idea. If I could have my partner. So, starting, what's about related to students, one or the other, or both?
I have a C, and Dan was able to help. It was circles.
Okay,
as well.
so how did you and Dan make sense?
Well, he, beginning and said that circle 2/3 is representatives half, which is really 1/3, and so thirds, which are really half.
Okay, so
I don't
break
know
that
if I
down.
would start my
Which
introduction.
is really, isn't this as simple as that?
So
No, but
six-
part of the visual of this is how,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
these are all, that's what's deceptive about it.
This,
They're
is
twice
that,
the-
yeah, that.
Okay,
Right.
so, space, and that, which would be something we would want to talk, what are the connections between this and the student who thought of it, to say something?
Like Will did, I mean, I saw this one, I didn't see, but this is this right here
Okay, how many 2/3 are in?
of that.
So then, how does this one come into?
Those are 3/2, just show, I don't know. 1/2, yeah,
Yep.
I guess, yeah, there we go, that's it.
Because you've got that is in 2/3 of a group. If it said is in
Okay.
2/3 of a group.
Thinking about Renee's comment about the,
2/3 is one.
One whole is in the two.
so one that we're looking, 2/3 are, so there's 2/3.
That's one group. The way they have it written there doesn't make
To
it.
them though, because they got,
So
you know what
then,
I'm saying?
Thinking of it.
Let's use that for a
I'm
criteria.
saying, I'm just saying though,
Think
it's
of it as a circle divided by 3 separate pieces, and all 3 of those together, and tell me that circle is,
yeah, because
I mean, you could think of it as like,
Sure.
4 pieces.
Seth is one, each part of this is thirds, so then trying to figure
3/2.
2, because it's 1 divided by, we got, and then we have,
A part, for me, what's that typically when you're drawing, using that as part of breaking it into section whole, and you're to 1.5, which would make a lot of sense to me. That's me, I'm not thinking like.
you'll see Mark in just a couple minutes when we watch the video. This is up there, because we're gonna see the video. And I was about it, so I can't actually took it, so detour down there. Okay, so say a little bit more about that.
Leftover part.
So this student, because I see them thirds, here's another two. They're moving along by two, so there's some understanding there. What to help them, the misconception we think.
Between the first 2/3 and
Yeah.
did the train stop?
Okay, so here's one jump. Yep. Also think about, did I further the way to the next one? On the students. Others ask if these kids were.
We talk that the idea at the elementary level, these remainders, I feel kind of leads to the because you can always express your remainder as I have leftover initial,
I always have to think about those two words.
in terms of understood the advisor, all of a sudden they get to middle school, we're more consistent. I wonder, prevent some.
That, is, if I can put this into an understanding,
Yes.
because I've got just saying, well, why am I 1 by 2/3?
Yep.
Well, so trying to come up with a concept would help in some of their as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that you have a context, or it could be that you do what we did to you for the everyday life. He's saying to the students, so now, or when it's early on in your first context that you might use to make, depends on that learning, but that could be really good. Then talks about maybe breaking a candy bar, giving away a candy bar. But you know, how many people could they get to? Half a person, but we put that 2/3 to somebody. Yeah, but it could be thinking as. You might also have one that if you're not getting a productive conversation, you could say, so now let's think about a candy, but an apple, let's think about, you know, how far would you be, that's something.
Well, I just, yesterday where you have the different ways,
Uh-huh.
how many groups, the other one's saying if you, of
Yep.
there's
Absolutely. It comes out in the, so again, attention to, and but again, the strategies that make sense of, but also to make sense of them in the video that we can think about and what's happening in the class. Spot on.
we then doing it the same way?
Ah, That's a great question. What do you guys think?
Well, what are you at? What do you have students accomplish today, in that day, to come out, how to word this? There's some purposes where it would be a struggle with different methods, experience that disequal, and, you know, find misconceptions and then fix. There's other times, you know, that's how far along you are in teaching these concepts too.
It could be going back to the you're going to see different types of lend themselves to division. Kids make sense of two different ways of thinking about.
You can talk about Common Core, more for one way than the other.
The Common Core wants these in multiple ways of thinking about. I think if you go back and read through themselves or some of the progression, my thought would be that they're going to be asked the solutions that would, in different ways of thinking of what I've read, not been that they will be asked that meaning. That they're not, you know, is this a takeaway that they're going to be asked, hopefully should be given the way the problems are. But I would encourage you to read and make sure that you take it away.
I'll get right on.
I was,
One and a half.
wouldn't be present circles more difficult?
I don't know the answer to that understanding, but that doesn't, your understanding is incorrect.
Heather knows.
Yeah.
Strips and
Yeah, I don't, for sure. So what I want us to, for not only thinking about work and allowing us math and make sense of it, what you might do, student work in your classroom, a question that intake to make sense of something without you think. So I think is important, or that you don't moments real quick and jot down thinking about. So we're going to see yet another class, and again, this is there so that we're just really taking, and that we're going to get a chance to how they're making sense of the math. The teacher might be doing. Just want to fit it. Grab to page 55. 55 through 57 has a ready to watch. It's a morning, so I want to make sure you've got the transcript. The kids talk. Want you to be what kinds of discourse. So you could be, but I think that's procedure fact. And that'll be important. Also want you to think about, is there evidence in the video that students on the mathematical habits of interaction norm in the classroom. Habits showing up. It's down there. It's just the kind of a teacher think about what, and again, it's not our place to think about what kinds of answers in the classroom. This time than with the other video. So again, you've got the transcripts down. Things that you think are procedure factors. Watch for evidence, and then be thinking about responses. Is the teacher getting the answer? Can we dim the light? Morning, didn't it?
The rule that you have, and what is on. Other thoughts on this? You use the reciprocal of 3. Why? Yeah, and so see what with this today. Today you're gonna have a rule, but what I want to know is of this, of what, all right, we have 2 different answers. We have and Leslie's saying it's because 1/3 and then 2 times 3 is 6. The theory that the other theory, we don't know why, except that the rule working is not good. So why does it make sense? Leslie's answer makes sense, why it makes sense. Almost one hand up and everybody can come up with what makes sense. Who goes ahead and side of the room that I talked to, people thought it was 6, and then to make an argument, Sam, would you go to the, you can erase the other, and would you erase the other so we start with my problem? You have this. That's, but that's, and that's 2/3, right? And this one doesn't count now, and this is the other one to draw. This is a hole. That's the hole, right? And if you put it here like it was, and then you still have the 1/3 is half, and so you just add nothing else. Now, remember, convince yourself, convince, and convince a skeptic. You want to or exactly what I was thinking. I could get a couple of people and then talk about what happened that said. You would really, this would be really great. Can you explain it? Okay. Why don't you try what somebody else said and your ability to. Okay. Well, in one whole time and this little try to fit it in 2.5 through 1. And you want it one. Oh yeah, I go to line was. Could you show your weight? We're going to have, because there's got to be maybe something the answer to it. Okay, so right here, there's mark. So, like here to here, it goes to like I said. Then here, left, third, 1/2. So, 2/3. It's a half. How would you write that? So, okay. So then equal to third. So that 1/3 is like 2/3. 1.5.
telling you about why it's 6. What method is Cheryl using? Okay, since people aren't remembering, yesterday we talked about related number sentences. Well, okay, and so you will show why that will be true. Christine?
Yeah, because we have nothing. What we do.
Okay.
And we have by the denominator as a whole number. 2 times 3 equals 6.
Probably can have 2 different answers. Some answer or a range. We agree that which is the most.
2, 6.
Leslie, what do you got your original
I
answer?
thought it would be that big.
I think it could be that big.
2/3. That's 6. Do it.
So you're trying to figure out something.
Cheryl's method, I felt like I could kind of understand.
Okay, you got 2 people that agree. Would you call on a few people?
Well, if we multiply it wouldn't equal. We tried 3, right? Because the line means divide. Because the 3 is divide.
Stop this right now because here's the thing is the biggest thing, follow rules. It's kind of like waving your tag up cartoon like that. Where there's mathematician board and there's all and then in the middle there's this thing where that way you prove. So that's what I don't want you to do. And I want to go back to what less 6 is too big to be. So let's see, what would be a sentence? A yard. I have a foot and I need to cut my little foot sections. I need 2/3 of a foot so I'd be able to get out of it. So if you lumber, I cut a foot. Is that does 6 make no, 6 it couldn't. So I really like the way less how many pieces of lumber a foot sections could I get? And why do you think 1.5? What is that mother? You don't know the sections, but anyway. So if I have here's my I cut off my 2/3, and so I get rid of that. So I've only got one. This one. This part is how long? 1/3 of what I need. Correct answer. That was you.
And well, it doesn't have the border and that is too big, but like I know it's probably just like the lumber like divided by 2
12.
12 inches.
Oh, so you would, yes, 4 inches. I agree with that. What is how many inches? So I cut off 8 inches. How many inches left? Half base. So that's another way to put it. Now, I'd like you to call additional algorithm. One way to divide fractions with.
I'm going to ask you to, your own, to kind of think about what you just, and in just a moment, I'm going to ask what kinds of and what mathematical together you saw evidence of. Think about the types of questions that will elicit some of the reasons. You're on first. Check in with your partner. What kinds of discourse were you hearing? Engaged in, and what's your evidence? What types of questions were being elicited productive? I'll let you talk with your partner.
Okay, so.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh.
That would have been, like, you know, when kids are.
Really?
Sorry, that was my
Yeah, so.
The reciprocal.
Well, that girl had to, she was all.
That's what I got as well.
A lot of them, is that my first use of math
Take sense out of this, maybe you haven't shared.
And what is she doing?
I felt like it was so long. All right, let me do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that in fact, you know?
Yeah.
Take one more minute, then we'll share.
You don't want to drive that.
No, yeah. Well, that was why I was
Oh, yeah, it's a half.
Yeah.
Bring us together. Lots of, and pairs and small, could we get some of these ideas at home? Let's start, since I'm standing over here. So was there evidence in some of the interaction? Example, what's a piece of?
They're persevering and see, they're making connect real world.
So, yeah, we saw the, one up on the board with the circle line.
And the rule.
Yep.
And stuff points, there were those.
And when they think it helped them do any of, I see some heads nodding, so doing some of these things, I generalize.
I see it, I think then pay it through.
I think the hard part, confusing for some of those kids, they're always told, what does this mean, and this is the, you know, and it's, you know, it's a condition to understand. And so it is,
When they were using those verbs being asked were really what was happening there. Some interactions that you saw in class?
Pathways, critique and debate.
Ways they were doing a little critique and debate comparison. Was math reasoning the
She showed, you know, and the answers, and this is what they are. Justifying them.
So, well, so again, and I talked about it yesterday, but that invert mold, that pattern up there where she had a division, the same as, and she inverted the section. I mean, there is a generalization, but thinking about why that works. What kind of discourse? Procedures, generalizations? Justification that.
The boy doing the, we came up and justified.
So he came up and drew a circle. 2/3 of it was and why that leftover piece, half of a 2/3.
Did the totally wrong.
Yeah, but I think out that students who are justifying mathematically mean they're always can be attempting to just something that isn't correct. Question to us becomes, so how do we love that strategy and move on to something?
That number by the bottom number?
Yeah, the numbers.
And then
It's
by
almost
the
like
bottom.
weird improv fraction, things like that, so.
Yeah, she's doing, but that's the thing that goes video.
fun top.
Yeah, from, you know, mix number one, where the rule is that we can take the whole number, then you add.
So she created a whole number to
But-
multiply.
But I wasn't
There's-
saying there said that that line needs
Yeah.
divisions.
Yeah. So again,
Reciprocal girl.
Thing is, I mean, there's lots of placing mathematical directions. What she was doing and how the fraction bar as a division, what that might
I
imply.
wonder if the girl that did the reciprocal just the
Yeah.
model that,
Mhm.
like, try to,
Back then, when I used them. Oh.
that flip the reciprocal to equal one was true. Yeah.
And then do some work that had happened before around some of her sentences and in for, 8 minutes what happened after. What else are you thinking about?
One thing I wondered, there are so many who are a little long-winded. I want students who, I worry about my struggling learners remaining engaged and tracking. And if there's an intermediate structure, something after, for the kids in groups, or make meaning out of what they just, like as soon as the inches, I could see some, and I'm out, got the inches, because I thought actions. And so more to allow for that meaning making.
So, two things, and we want to be really careful in this classroom that we're judging that. So, and I know that's not the intent, but let's take that example up and done the circle piece, the beginning of the video. What question, at that point, could you have done?
turn and talk, A, to share with your table, that student do on the board.
This makes sense, I disagree.
Or come up with another.
We're trying to get multiple pathways up, the same, you know, and you look to me like she was having those up on the bear, the different necessarily to make sure everybody in one way.
Because, so the teacher, Kathy's not here, which assumptions, if it was about their model, we could do exactly, have them stop, turn and tell you, we could do a quick formative class, you know, just kind of give me a quick, if it was about multiple paths up, you know, maybe the number line, how do they represent the same?
I don't think they can do that, understand what each one represents. You know, if you're trying multiple pathways and have students, if you're thinking of each individual one.
The purpose of multiple pathway, everything, or is it to this, that maybe if they see it this way, or maybe if they see it this way, that?
There's no, I get to get every kid to understand. Plus, the ones use the math property of, you know, that's, you know, I don't, when I was back then, I don't care the right answer. Take the 10 minutes to explain it. And if I get it to try and express in a visual, because that's it seems like we could do a visual describing something that can and just get that. Just in a visual way, so.
Have they not gone on, got 6?
I agree with you. It was too much, and I need to stop somehow, waited about something else. There's gotta be a way to do it.
Then what she was not comfortable with, them to identify, oh, I really is. But it needs to be some processing.
Which one makes the most sense?
Yeah.
Necessarily have to know every one makes
Which
the
one
most
works
sense.
for you?
Able to
Sure.
share one.
Yeah.
Intermediate step where they do, you know, that kind of get in and gets them and evaluate my thought and, you know, turn and talk kind of.
Were you thinking, let's see if kids are after something else?
Each method, you could share what you know, do you like that model or don't with it, and then move on to the next.
About it,
Yeah,
anything,
question, yeah.
just.
Put here, and that's, or I'll say that one with the circle.
Yeah.
That
So,
much was a lot.
like if you divided by, because then you end up 4 groups of 1/3 starting point, or would that, as far as like getting some of those, I understand, but I can't explain it.
I think we have to be a little bit letting the conversation go because hang out are really important. Again, that intention, why are you gonna do it? I just, we don't know what happened so we don't know for sure is coming in. So maybe they've done work on, you know, to kind of wrap it up and come to that. This might be day 2 because I alluded to work they had done the day 1. But again, the idea of how do we help kids make one model or after, whether it's stopping and asking them which one makes sense to you and what is that pressed for why? I want that model. That sense, why does that model, the key piece there? Contrasting, if depending on where it is, we're thinking about that critique and their logic. Might not be, if these are early on after each one and having the kids. The best here would be to be really into why are you going to do it and their understanding. Just to give you a little bit of this before the video point in case you're, so that particular video that we came from a book called, it's the teacher that Humphreys, and as she allowed Joe to video for a year studies and in some of the reflections, not because a lesson that's exactly perfect. One teacher, a researcher, an opportunity to students make sense. Other videos, this is just sharing a resource. Of the different videos, there are capture and then Joe's reflect. So I'll take a peek at it, but just that was done, and it's not just Joe Bowler, but all of about how do we help kids, and I think that are really important. Quick break before. Yeah. So,
Oh.
just briefly, just to frame this next, do some planning with your, right? Oops. Ask you to, pull, could be tomorrow, could be Thursday. And I want you to, what's the core math I want students to understand about finding that first? Opportunities in the lesson to so where might you press for generalization? Some sub-questions down here. And then your habits of interaction, will you be for the last couple of days about those habits of interaction we've been talking about. So thinking here with what you already, how might you take some of what you've been action plan in a lesson? Please feel free to move around so you can plan with. I'm just going to help you out. I'd be happy to think, but I'll leave this slide up. It's totally fine. What I'm hoping, so before we get together months, and I can say, and again, I really do appreciate your this is the second article that I'm going to gather in January. I can post that to the online this evening and then remind you a fairly short article conversations when we get together.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's
You guys the email so you don't have to go on.
to go anywhere. If you you can post and the rest show up in your email, and you don't have to go anywhere special.
My question was.
No. Promise I'm not going to send you a bunch of reminders. If you have orthography, if you wouldn't mind, in the next, great, please do that. And if you do it, now before you go, quick reminder to watch for those posts. It won't be filling up your inbox. Send you a quick reminder. Might ask you if you want to post something back. So great. Your name tent with me, and then on consumable feedback 1, I'm jotting a few thoughts on where you can give me a little bit as we're kind of really helpful as I think. But I'll leave that right patients before you do this. That's really the only thing. I need consumable 15 in your name tent. Post on the online math collaborative.
We've got some tentative dates for, so we're firm, but right now we're looking at Julia for Thunder Rio and February EMS. Now and then we would identify going to be, and ultimately entails studio teacher to put it up there.
Oh.
I was paying attention yesterday.
On the rules that were created, teacher, you have a half. So those are both Thursday, and if you're a studio teacher, you have Thursday to work lesson and so on and so forth. Friday as a sub, watch the lesson, and that's kind of what that looks.
So if you're not,
So if you're you're only a teacher, which Thunder Mountain Hill, right?
Sixth grade, man, so it goes on.
Big.
We're gonna have to play a game.